Hi, I'm Lou Steinberg. Today I'm going to share some insights into why it's so hard to get customer-centric apps from IT and what can be done to fix it. So in the next 20 minutes, you're going to get a peek into what's really going on in tech. Now, I know the 8 most frightening words in the English language may be, I'm from IT and I'm here to help, but it's true. I was the CTO of TD Ameritrade for 6 years, but I've also built and run companies, so I've seen this problem from both sides. I'm currently a co-founder and chairman of the Authoriti network, a company that specializes in enabling client-centric activity, as well as the founding managing partner at a cybersecurity research lab and incubator. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. First, we in IT get it. We know you keep asking for customer centricity, putting the customer in the middle, though we tend to badly misinterpret what that means. We know the goal is to be seamless. While it's true that IT uses jargon and seems to really like complexity, we don't believe that if something was hard to build, it should be hard to use. So you go to IT with requirements, or as you call it, the land of no and slow. Now, IT builds channel-centric apps to deliver services according to a spec. And everything's going great until you ask us to do something like omnichannel. Not because it's hard, but because we've painted ourselves into a corner. Getting out is hard. And thus begins your descent into Dante's 5th circle of hell. It's hard because we're looking at the problem very differently from how the business does. It's like blindfolded people trying to describe an elephant simply by touching it. The person at the trunk and the person at the tail have very different perspectives. So in this case, we have world views that form the basis of the issues between us. One, when you say customer-centric, we think that means a model of the customer in a database is at the center of what we do. So yeah, I'm customer-centric, and I have a database to prove it. Two, the security team, often housed in IT, assumes that anyone trying to connect to us is an adversary. That's really the word we use. When's the last time you wanted an adversarial relationship with someone holding your money? Let's look at both of these and what we can do about them. Okay, it's officially ridiculous. If we don't agree on where we're going, the only way you'll get where you want is by accident. Worse, we in IT think we have a roadmap and think we understand and are aligned until we don't. What you're going to see is that we built around this database-centric customer model, thinking it was customer-centric. We often organize IT delivery around each channel because they use different tech stacks, Java for web, Swift or Kotlin for mobile, proprietary vendor stuff on the voice side. But because of our database, we think we can fragment the implementation. Maybe we can, but not without serious guardrails. Let's take a look. This is really how IT thinks of financial systems. We talk about systems of record, the database, systems of insight, the transactions and reporting, and systems of engagement, channel-specific interfaces the customers use. Now, our customer database holds the master electronic representation of the physical customer. We know their name, we know their address, we know their account number, nice and central to everything. On top of that, our web team builds web apps, our mobile team builds mobile apps, etc. It's all super channel specific stuff, each with a customer experience baked in. Now let's look at the business view. You say you want the customer in the center of the universe. We think we have that with customer database. And if you like, we'll even highlight the fact that the database is a customer database. But I believe you mean more than an electronic representation of a customer in bits and bytes. I believe you mean you want a common customer experience. Oops, That's not what we built. So why does that matter? Because the pesky systems of engagement I mentioned before, they define the customer experience. And we didn't put those in the center. We let each of our channel tech groups build them differently. So the customer experience is driven by a different group of people who have free choice. Let's take an example. A financial services app needs to show an available balance. The mobile team might reasonably say that the balance shouldn't include pending bill pay transactions. While they haven't been paid yet, those funds are committed and really aren't available for the customer to spend. That's totally consistent with not showing deposits in the available balance until they've cleared and the customer has access to the funds. Cool. Now the web team might have a different idea. They might say it makes no sense to remove pending bill pay transactions from the available balance when they can't remove checks that have been written but not yet seen by the institution. Because in both cases, the funds aren't available for the customer to spend. So why exclude some when you can't be consistent? Neither team's wrong. The issue is that when the poor client logs in, he sees a different available balance through web versus mobile, and that's maddening. Now, I know that's an extreme example, and it's one you've probably already covered by forcing alignment. The real issue is that there are hundreds of smaller micro experiences where this happens continuously. Like I can do things in one channel that I can't do in another. The channels are just different. Not only does that make it likely that the CX is going to differ based on the channel, but it makes channel agility impossible. Ever hear something like this from IT? You want to switch from chat to voice without re-authenticating, but they're not the same. IT doesn't just think that every channel is unique. We think every session lives in its own independent bubble. Channel agility is impossible. But channel agility doesn't require common data models. It requires a common experience, right? That experience needs to be defined and mandated to be consistent. When we say available balance, we mean this. The issue is we in IT built things backwards, and we need to flip it around. We built from a data model, and then we added fragmented channel tech stacks, which resulted in fragmented customer experiences. What we need is to make the customer experience the center of the universe. In geek speak, that moves the systems of insight which define the experience out of the fragmented apps. The key thing is the apps should define the user experience, should define the user interface, not the user experience. So 3 things need to happen. 1, the business needs to mandate a common experience. 2, IT needs to build common services in their platform aligned with micro experiences, security, getting balances, moving money, and then you need to mandate their use. Jeff Bezos famously did this early on in Amazon when he issued a memo that said, all teams will henceforth expose their data and functionality through services interfaces. Anyone who doesn't do this will be fired. Thank you and have a nice day. And then lastly, IT still does need to define and build their common data representation in a database, but it shouldn't come first, and it should be built incrementally. Why incrementally? Well, IT is going to be tempted to fix this by 1, updating their data models, which we know is broken, and 2, creating data management and governance and layers of complexity to handle all of your future needs. And the issue is that'll take forever and probably not end up handling all of your future needs. So we should have defined a common experience, then the platforms to deliver it, then the data to support it. But We in IT started with a common database, built different apps to deliver it, resulting in different experiences. All right, so that's problem one and how to solve it. Once you get that figured out, then you get to talk to security about their concerns. Security has trust issues. We don't agree if we should trust the person engaging with us, even though 99.99% of the time, the person connecting is legitimate. We penalize everyone for the 0.01%. But don't blame security. They've been told, don't make it easy for the bad actors. So that's what they do. They don't make it easy. Their incentives are not aligned with CX. Think about the models they use. They call it challenge response. They call it zero trust. These are the exact opposite of a customer-friendly experience. They ask customers to prove themselves worthy of being able to transact. And people on the other end are hostile until proven otherwise. So we do things like challenge people with out-of-wallet questions that they may not even remember the answer to. My second grade homeroom teacher, Miss, I have no idea. Or they ask, which of these addresses have you lived at when you haven't lived at any of them? Of course, sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes we have trust issues that are insurmountable, and that's when CX really suffers. We flat out won't let you do some things on some channels. So we make customers change their context to satisfy our needs. I have a bank that requires me to fax them paper to do a wire transfer. I haven't owned a fax machine in 20 years. Other institutions tell me they can't service some of my requests over chat. I have to stop and call in. They really think that's more secure? It's certainly more annoying. The issue here isn't the channel. It's that we're trying to solve the wrong problem. Security today is based on a legacy branch model that went something like this. Come in, show me your ID to prove you're the account holder, and I'll let you transact. Now, the goal was never to establish identity. It was to transact. Somewhere along the way, we seem to have lost sight of that. So let's step back. We want to protect accounts from fraud and identity theft. Fraudulent transactions and the theft of data aren't bad people. They're bad activities. So making clients jump through hoops to prove their identity misplaces our focus on the who instead of the what. As channels have become more digital and the who became easier to fake, the challenges we create for legitimate customers increase, and we end up hurting the experience without really solving the problem. What we really want to know more than anything is whether a real customer wants a specific transaction. So let's focus on whether the transaction is legitimately aligned with customer intent instead of the requester's identity. Again, the answer is to flip things around. Instead of challenging a customer to prove themselves worthy of us, how about we ask them to authorize us to do things on their behalf? For example, if a customer wants us to move their money, we shouldn't send them a PIN to send to us proving they're holding their phone. It's awkward. It also has lots of security issues because the PINs can get intercepted and then misused. Customers should give us a unique PIN that only they could have made, which authorizes us to act on their behalf. Now that PIN doesn't need to be random letters and numbers. It can actually contain the details of their transaction. So then even if someone hacked in and intercepted it, the PIN could only be used to do the exact transaction the real customer wanted to do. In doing this, we accomplished three things. One, we focused on and aligned with customer intent. Two, We stopped challenging our customers to prove themselves. Instead, we get their authorization for us to act on their behalf, like opening an account or moving money. And three, we eliminate security concerns about insecure channels or about delegated transactions through things like AI chatbots. So to paraphrase the wise sage Homer Simpson, IT is the cause of and the solution to all of the world's problems. IT can absolutely provide these solutions. We just need to align on customer experience as the center and give customers control over their transactions based on their intent. That makes this whole system CX friendly. So security is happy, meaning there are no arbitrary channel limitations around transaction types or sizes. With chat, that means do anything. With voice, that means we eliminate those knowledge-based assessment questions. We also eliminate annoying IVR menus since we know the customer intent and we can do intent-based routing of calls directly to where they go. With web and mobile, it means no limits on transaction sizes. I have another bank that limits how much money I can give them each day via mobile deposit. They should want my money. And lastly, with legacy channels, this means no annoying callbacks with things like paper, and certainly no fax machines. So that's it. You've seen behind the curtain. You've seen that even though we both say we put the customer in the center, IT means they put a customer database record in the center. You've seen that the way to fix this is to mandate a common experience and then mandate services platforms that all apps have to use to deliver them. You've also seen that security is trying hard to fight a losing battle, making it hard for bad actors to prove they're real customers and making it hard for legitimate customers at the same time. And the solution there is to give control over transactions to legitimate customers by having them authorize us to work on their behalf. And hopefully, you've seen that we're here to help. Please reach out to cx@authoriti.net and we'll take good care of you. Thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it.